Hello and welcome to this special live broadcast on 89.3 WBLD, the all-new Lakes FM, and on Civic Center TV and on WBTV and all over the internet too at civiccentertv.com and WBTV.com. Very special day in West Bloomfield as Governor Gretchen Whitmer is here today to talk about the budget and talk about the roads, and we're in a school. Likely, we'll be talking a little bit about education as well. Should be a great day. And I am delighted to be joined by Dave Alberry. Say hello, Dave.
I will, Dave. Thank you. And welcome to all of you. Very proud to have you here. I see at least one member of the state legislature, Representative Ryan Berman, in the back. And I have Mari Manugian and Jim. Thank you. Thank you all for being here. We appreciate it. Welcome to the West Bloomfield School District and to West Bloomfield High School and to West Bloomfield Township and to Greater West Bloomfield, not wanting to leave out our other three communities of Hego Harbor, Orchard Lake, and Sylvan Lake. With us also here today is Erica. Introduce yourself.
Hi, I'm Erica Jones. I'm interning for the summer with Civic Center TV. I graduated from West Bloomfield High School last year in 2018, and I just finished my freshman year at University of Miami in Florida. It's really a pleasure to be here, and I'm so grateful for this opportunity.
All right. Is Erica Jones going to be a great television reporter or what? Another great student from Civic Center TV and West Bloomfield High School. We're really glad to have her. So it's going to be interesting. We're just going to chat with you for a minute while we're waiting for the governor to arrive. Of course, Dr. Hill is our real master of ceremonies, so it's good to be here. We want to remind you that this is live on TV right now and on the radio, and we also invite you, if you want to see yourself, if you're here live and in person, you want to see this broadcast later, to tune into Civic Center TV or WBTV. First of all, what a great look here in the Eye Center. It looks absolutely fantastic, Pat Watson, and this is a great site for this event, and how fortunate that we are to have the governor here, Dave Alberry. Can't recall too many gubernatorial appearances in our schools.
If you and I go back, 45 years here? At least. And no, I do not remember any gubernatorial appearances in this room. We have others in this room that go back a fair distance. I'm looking at you, Treasurer Weingarten. But many others in the room who go back. No, but and this room is not a bit like it was when the building was first built in 1971. Some of you are sitting. There was a hole where some of you are sitting. Only some remember that, but there was I think it was called a conversation pit. I don't know what the point was in the 70s of having a conversation pit, but it was there. But this is beautiful, the work that's been done on the building through the millage that was passed in 2017. Oh, good, that was a good guess. That's been done and more work going on. I know they're working on Chico and Gretchko this summer, and that's why the clerk had to move 2 of her precincts for voting. If you're in those precincts, 4 of them. And if you're in those precincts, check with the clerk's office at West Bloomfield Township regarding your new voting location, which I think they passed on June 3rd. And, yep, right. But there's going to be some changes. But we're looking forward to this presentation today for the governor to choose this location to present this, and it's going to be budget related. I think we don't know all the details, but the flyer that you have picked up at the table there includes some mention of road funding. I don't know if I'm allowed to say fix the damn roads, but I just did. So we got that out of the way. And you see along the right-hand side of that sheet some notice of public education funding increases that she is proposing, including a $362 increase in the foundation allowance for this school district, West Bloomfield Schools, as well as other schools in the area and in Oakland County. So we're looking forward to her. And Dave, back to you if we have a word. Are we close?
We are getting close, but always time reminder of, get my hands off the mic there, of where we are and where we're broadcasting. For people that are driving up and down Orchard Lake Road right now, just reminding you that you're listening to 89.3 WBLD and our great community radio station. And we are live on the radio right now and live on Civic Center TV. It's really wonderful that we had the ability to be here and broadcast live. And Dave, I was really excited. We got this news, just a couple of weeks ago from Dan and Dr. Hill that the governor was going to be here. And I think we are ready for our program to begin. So we're going to get out of the way. And with that, I believe Dr. Hill is ready to make his way up and get our program started for today. So thank you very much. We'll talk to you after the program.
Good afternoon. I'm Jerry Hill, Superintendent in the West Bloomfield School District. I'd like to thank Dave for that great introduction. And it gives me it's a great honor for the West Bloomfield School District to host Governor Whitmer's Townhall meeting. And I'd like to give a special shout out to Principal Pat Watson and his staff. If you're from West Bloomfield High School, would you just wave your hand and say hello? Let's give them a round of applause. Yep. Just a couple of words about West Bloomfield School District and West Bloomfield High School. This is one of the more richly diverse school communities in the state of Michigan and one of the top quality school districts in the state of Michigan. And it doesn't happen by accident. We have several Board of Education members here. I would like the board members just to raise your hand and for recognition, please. And you'll hear from the governor's remarks that it hasn't been always easy budget-wise for school districts in the state of Michigan, and we're hoping that things continue to improve. We've righted the ship here. We're doing all kinds of fantastic things for students. We have a nice banner here that shows our portrait of a graduate, and we take that work seriously, and we're looking for all the assistance from the governor, the legislators, both parties, and try to do what's best on behalf of students. At this time, is the governor ready? Okay, at this time, it gives me pleasure. I didn't know if she was taking a tour of the building or not. No. At this time, it gives me great pleasure to introduce Governor Gretchen Whitmer and then Michigan Department of Transportation Director Paul Ajegba. And we are very pleased that both of you took the time out of your busy schedules to visit the citizens in our greater West Bloomfield community. Thank you.
All right. Well, thank you, Dr. Hill. I appreciate it so much. I am so grateful to all of you for making some time to be here for this important conversation, too. I know this is a room filled with people that wear a lot of hats, and you could be in a lot of different places right now, but you chose to be here, and I think you did it because you know this is an important conversation about where we are headed as a state, what we're going to do, what our path is, and how do we get to a place where we live up to the great legacy that is Michigan, the place where people came to for opportunity, a good paying job. You know, no matter where you move to, your kids would have a phenomenal public school education, a high quality of life, and you could be confident when you turned on the tap and gave your child a glass of water at the dinner table. And these are the fundamentals that I'm focusing on in this budget. We have divided government in Lansing. I remain committed to the belief that divided government doesn't have to look like Washington, D.C. It can look incredibly productive if we remember first we are Michiganders, and we have serious work to do. And so I wanted to come here and include you in the conversation around the state budget and answer your questions. So I'm going to jump right in. This is the Michigan that I think of as I describe that legacy, right? But right now in Michigan, after this wonderful legacy we lived off for a long time, for the last 40 years we stopped investing in the fundamentals that really make this a great state. And we now find ourselves at a crossroads where we have a decision to make. Are we going to be bold and fix these fundamentals, or are we going to keep doing the same thing and hope for a different result, which, by the way, is the definition of insanity, right? We have to do something bold now. And what I've put on the table in the form of our state budget is a bold plan for the future that really improves people's lives across the state of Michigan. Now, the month of March, the Lieutenant Governor and I traveled the state, and we did March's Reading Month and got into school districts, from tiny little school districts to I was here in West Bloomfield as well. but every opportunity we took to engage with the students of Michigan. Now, you can learn a lot by talking to second graders in Michigan, all right? You can learn some interesting things, too. But I can tell you this, the children of today are much more concerned about these fundamentals than we ever were growing up here. I've got kids in the public schools in East Lansing. The conversations we have are heavier and more thoughtful than conversations I had with my parents. In second grade, my biggest worry was making sure I had an orange bow to match my patchwork shirt. It was the 70s. Look at that shirt, right? But these kids, Michigan school kids of today, have a lot heavier concerns on their minds, and they made it known. I was lucky to receive a box full of postcards from one particular district in the Saginaw Bay area. This box was so big, had 1,900 cards in it, with letters from students to me. My staff had to wheel them around in a cart. It was so heavy. And these kids are talking about issues that adults are talking about. You look at that stack, you can see roads was the most frequently talked about issue from our children. Second was schools, if you don't look at the miscellaneous. Schools. Third was our environment and our water, and so on. And so I'm going to show you a couple of the examples. This is from a girl named Haley who was worried about the Great Lakes. She loves the Great Lakes, and so do all of us, right? These were from Oakley and Quinton about having supplies in their schools, wanting us to invest in their education. That's what second graders are lobbying their governor about. This was a child who's going to be an outdoors person and has colorful language. I think we need to talk to him about his language, but whatever. He's passionate. My intern did a pie chart to show me what our kids were worried about, and here it is so you can see. The first, the biggest was the roads. Second was that miscellaneous multiple topics section. But schools and drinking water were tied for the second biggest issue that our young people are concerned about in the state. And it absolutely coincides with what adults are concerned about as well, right? This is postcards about our roads, but the majority being from our roads. That one on the right is someone falling in a pothole, and it says 2 hours later, still falling. So the reason that adults and kids alike in this state are worried about these fundamentals is because we know that our leaders have been playing a shell game with the state budget. Now, the state budget is $60 billion, all things totaled up. But $10.7 billion is the general fund. And that's the money that pays for everything from public safety to our veterans' homes to the 48,000 people that make up our state workforce and do the frontline work of keeping people safe, ensuring that we've got clean drinking water, and so on. Keeping down the cost of a 4-year degree comes out of that same general fund. Now, because our transportation fund didn't grow over the last 20 years, commensurate to the need, and the general fund stayed stagnant, $10.7 billion in 2000, and it's $10.7 billion today, they started playing a shell game. Our infrastructure crisis meant we could not fill potholes. So to do it, they started taking money out of the general fund to fill potholes. And to shore up the general fund, they took money out of the school aid fund. And as a result, we're not doing any of those three things well. We're certainly not rebuilding infrastructure in Michigan. We haven't kept down the cost of a 4-year degree. We haven't been able to invest in the fundamentals in terms of what that general fund's supposed to go to, and our kids are paying the worst price for it. As a result, our kids are falling behind. Now, I recognize I'm standing in one of the nicest school buildings in the state, in a wonderfully run district that's had some great outcomes for kids. But on average, this is what Michigan looks like compared to the rest of the country. We're 50th when it comes to growth and proficiency in literacy. Now, I want to point out, this isn't because Michigan kids don't have the same potential as any other child. And this is not because our educators aren't as dedicated. This is a direct result with funding that is 50th in this country over the same period of time. We've made the smallest investment and we've got the worst outcomes, and they are absolutely correlated. The other issue that we're confronting as a state, the state that used to have the best skilled workforce on the planet, we're now in the bottom 20 when it comes to how our skills stack up compared to the rest of the country. Only 45% of our adults have some form of post-secondary certificate or degree in an economy that absolutely demands one. Those jobs at auto factories now require a degree or certificate where they didn't before. And we have to upskill and be focused on making sure that our people have the skills, because we've got tens of thousands of unfilled, good-paying jobs in this state because we have this skills gap. And of course, I'm going to talk about the infrastructure, right? Shouldn't be a surprise to anyone. This is a picture. It actually is a video. It's a still from a video that I took on my way from Traverse City to Mackinac City. I had to go to Mackinac Island for the Detroit Regional Chamber Conference. And so I was literally going from one pure Michigan destination to another. But the road over looked like a third world country almost the whole way over. Downright dangerous and undermining tourism and a high quality of life that we boast here in Michigan. Instead of fixing roads, we're building signs like this. And this is a 12-year-old I met in Muskegon, whose mom had to pay such an enormous bill to fix her car, they forewent some other things in their household because it ate up so much money of their household income. So he went out and started filling potholes on his own on their street. Oh, that's Paul. Paul, I'll leave that one for you to show. That's your cartoon. So let's talk about what the standard should be. At any given time, a state's roads should be 90% in good or fair condition. That's the national standard. Before the gas tax of 2015 that we're all mad about because it didn't fix the problem, even though we thought that it did, that's the trajectory we were on. And you can see how fast we were falling. So they passed that gas tax in 15, and you can see it didn't fix the problem. It just slowed our decline, right? As a result, today, we are at 78% of our roads in good or fair condition. And I know you live in metropolitan Detroit, so you're thinking, how on earth are we even at 78%, right? Well, the thing about infrastructure is there's no such thing as the status quo. You can't spend the same today and expect the same, you're not going to deteriorate tomorrow. You're either investing or you're deteriorating. And you can see right now, if we keep doing what we're doing, we're going to drop from 78% in good or fair condition to 60% by 2022. The cost today is $2.5 billion. By 2022, it's $3.5 billion to fix this problem. So it's getting more dangerous and more expensive. Every day we don't actually have a real solution. Now, I went over to a bridge outside the Ford Rouge factory in Dearborn. We went to go look at this bridge because it's got how many temporary supports holding it up right now? 2,500 temporary. How many?
Over 500.
Thank you, that's a different number. Okay, I've been doing so many stats, I'm glad I got the MDOT director here to refresh my recollection. Over 500 temporary supports to hold up this bridge outside of one of our biggest employers in the state, where we're building advanced automobiles. But we have a bridge that's falling down outside of it. But the FREEP ran this picture, and I know you see that school bus. We have 1,100 bridges in Michigan that are in poor shape that we need to fix. And our kids are riding over them in school buses, and we're driving under them every single day. And that's what keeps me up at night, the state of our bridges. Because my biggest fear is that we end up looking like Minnesota did when they had a bridge collapse. And 13 people died and 125 people were injured. This is what keeps me up at night. The thought of having an infrastructure catastrophe where lives are lost, and the world looks at that as Michigan. So the solution that I put on the table to close this $2.5 billion hole that we have in our infrastructure is a 45-cent gas tax. Now, I know when you lead with that, that's all anyone focuses on. I understand that. But I ran for governor because I see this problem and I want to fix it. And I'm tired of people who tell us we can have everything and pay for nothing when they know it's not true. Or we can do small measures and actually change the trajectory of where we're headed. It is time for a real conversation about what it's going to take. 45 cents is a lot of money, and I know it's going to be hard for some people to absorb. I did an interview, and the gentleman said, I know you want to raise the gas tax. And I said, back up. I don't want to raise the gas tax. No one wants to raise the gas tax. But we have to fix this problem. Sticking our head in the sand and doing nothing is not an option. And so we phase it in to help mitigate some of the hardship on people. We also double the earned income tax credit so that the working poor will have complete relief from the increase. This is about $23 a month for the average driver, $270 a year. So it offsets the cost that we're all paying to fix our cars right now. The average driver in Michigan is spending $646 a year to fix our rims or replace our windshields or replace our tires. This $270 at the pump is a lot less and actually keeps that bill from getting more expensive as we get to work fixing the roads. When you do it at the pump, every penny is constitutionally dedicated for the roads. So that shell game that's been played can't happen anymore. Article 9, Section 9 of our state constitution requires every penny of this to actually go to fixing roads and bridges in Michigan. So we've got real truth in taxation and accountability in this one. When we do it, you can see this kind of investment changes the trajectory. It's still going to take us 10 years to get to 90%, but we get there. And that's the most important point, to change that trajectory. I have this slide because people have asked, are there other ways we could do this? And some have suggested maybe you should do a corporate income tax. And so I want to just take a look at some of the alternatives. To get to $2.5 billion, there's only a handful of taxes. The corporate income tax would have to be tripled. In this political environment, I think it's tilting at a windmill to lead with this because I don't see how the legislature would ever approve this. But even if they did, another downside to this is that the money is not guaranteed to go to the roads and bridges. We would have to hope that a future governor and future legislators actually put the money into the roads and bridges. Same for the individual income tax. There's no guarantee it goes to the roads and bridges. The sales tax, which some have suggested we do, requires both a vote of the people to amend our Constitution, so that's a lot harder to do and a lot more dicey to get done, and it doesn't guarantee that it actually goes to the roads and bridges. And so that's why we chose the gas tax as maybe the smartest way to do it. So I wanted to remind you of the shell game that I pointed out that's been done. Here's what my budget does. Dollars at the pump go to roads and bridges. The general fund money can come out of potholes and go back to general fund expenses, like closing the skills gap. And the money that's been diverted out of our kids' education can go back into schools. Just by putting that money back where it's supposed to be represents the biggest investment in kids' education in Michigan in 20 years, in the last 20 years. So we can bring down class size, increase the number of literacy coaches by threefold, upgrade our technology, and increase money for at-risk and for special education and for CTEs. That's where the equity is really built into this budget. We can fund the Michigan Reconnect when that general fund money is not in potholes but back in the general fund, and ensuring that adults have an opportunity to upskill, and graduating seniors as well through the My Opportunity Initiative, a debt-free community college path, or bringing down the cost of a four-year degree. I'm going to just flip through these quick. So, what this budget does, 3 things. Yes, it fixes the damn roads. It helps us close the skills gap so we can fill those higher wage jobs and elevate standard of living for people in our state. And it makes our kids' education a priority again. I've gotten a lot of different groups, which are non-traditional allies, to come on board and see the wisdom of this, whether it's the Chamber or it's Business Leaders of Michigan. And I think it's because of this last one. Because people understand that when we get the foundation strong, every one of us benefits. The quality of life for people goes up, but the business climate gets stronger as well. And when we actually work together like a big family, I love that, we can solve these problems together. These are not partisan issues. The quality of your drinking water or your kids' school or whether or not you can afford to get the skills you need or just potholes that are not inherently partisan or political. When we fix them, every one of us benefits. Thank you.
Thank you, Governor. Good afternoon, everybody. For the past maybe 3-4 months now, the governor and I have been going around the state doing town halls and try to call attention to this issue. And I will tell you before I get started on my presentation, we have a governor that's a leader. And I said that because when my team and I first met with the governor, her question is, how big is this problem? How much will it cost to fix this problem? And when we gave her the numbers, she said, this is what we're going to take to the people. And I think that's bold leadership, and she deserves a hand for that. Because for somebody who's worked in the department for 29 years, we've seen this problem coming for a long time. We've been sounding alarm behind the scenes, but it's here now, but we have a champion that says, okay, no more shell game, let's take care of the problem. And to me, that's a welcome sight. This slide I want to share with you is what was supposed to have happened in 2015. In 2015, the legislatures passed a budget saying we fixed the problem, $1.2 billion, right? MDOT at that time was on record that we needed $1.2 billion just for our system. But they passed a $1.2 billion bill, ran it through the Act 51 formula, which means MDOT only got 39% of $1.2 billion. So we're still 61% in the hole, right? And of that $1.2 billion, $600 million of that did not kick in until 2017. The other $600 million we're still waiting for, it's not going to kick in until 2021. But while we're waiting, our roads are deteriorating. So the first slide you see, that orange line, is where we were headed. The black line is what the 2015 numbers did. The governor's proposal is that green line. It'll get us back to the 90% goal. Because if we don't do that, as the governor said, in 2 years, our system will be down to 65%. 78% right now, the public's saying it's not acceptable. Can you imagine if we go down to 65%? So that's what our reality is. This next slide, I like sharing this because somebody sent this to me. And it had LOL on it, so I took it out because I didn't think it was funny. For somebody who's been in department for 29 years, I took it kind of personal. But this is our reality, you know. When somebody's sending this out there, you can't help but say, well, maybe this is true, but I can't sign on to that, right? So this is, we have to do something. I would tell you about a month or two or so ago, I was driving down this road in Washington County, Hogback. It's, back road. It's just like the road the governor showed in her slide. This guy in front of me was driving in between the two yellow lines because it's a two-lane roadway. And every time his car is coming, he'll duck back in. And then he'll ride the pothole for a little bit and do the same thing. I'm like, man, this is dangerous. Nothing good can come out of this. But that is what we're having to resort to, and it shouldn't be that way. This slide here is our reality, as I said. Forget that this is a text between myself and a friend of mine. Forget that he called me Paulie. But focus on the dates on that text. Take a look at it. The first one is February 12th, and the second one is March 6th. That's within a month. He had to fix 2 tires. I mean, the second one is very severe. Spent about 4 hours a bell tire. I'm still, when I have conversations with him, I said, nobody's been able to calculate the loss in productivity. The human toll this takes on people. You go into a meeting or go on a walk in the morning, you have to pull up on the side of the road, wait for a tow truck. Your day is ruined. You end up at a tire repair place instead of going to work. About 2 months ago, we had to close I-75 in Oakland County because people were having busted tires. This is a major freeway. We ended up mobilizing a crew to go out there on a very cold night, walk all night so we can have the freeway open the next morning, because I-75 carries close to $200,000, 200 vehicles a day. I mean, that's 200,000 vehicles that if we didn't have that freeway open, can you imagine? They'll find their way, but they'll get to work maybe around noon, because the next detour will be Telegraph and Woodward. And that means they're going to be really, on a backup all day. So these are things that people don't consider when we say the roads are bad. Well, just keep doing what you're doing. All we've been doing is bandaging for the past 10 years. And I think the governor's approach is right. It's time we fix the problem. Thank you for having us.
Thank you. And at this time, we're going to do a question and answer. But before we do question and answer, there are a few students in the audience, and I'm going to call out some names and have people stand. Mackenzie Barbot Morgan. Barbot, are you here this afternoon? Would you please stand? And then we have Anika Ghosh and Audrey Gunawan. Please stand. And if there are any other students, I see Zach Crawford and Andrew just graduated, and any other students from West Bloomfield School District or other schools, please stand for a round of applause. Thank you. And I know we're here for the students, and I have a series of questions. The first one, Governor, is who must be pushed to get the taxation needed to elevate Michigan to be a leader again?
Well, I appreciate that question. So, I introduced this plan back in March, and there's been some work in the legislature around budgets, but no real alternative put out there to actually fix the problem. I know that it's not just second graders who think the toughest issue we got to solve are our roads, and the second being our education issues, right? But there's been very little forthcoming out of the legislature in terms of is that fair, Mari? Representative Manoogian and Representative Ellison are here, and Representative Berman was here earlier. I don't know if he's back there. So I'm grateful to have people from both sides of the aisle here today, actually. But what we need to do is encourage the legislature to take this vote. It's not easy to do. As a former legislator, I can tell you the hardest votes are increasing revenue. But the worst votes you can take is an increase that doesn't actually fix the problem. And that's what I'm trying to avoid here by putting a real solution on the table that actually does what we tell you it's going to do, so that by 2030 we can boast having closed the skills gap and fixing our infrastructure and cleaning up drinking water and improving our educational outcomes for kids. So the legislature needs your support. They need to hear from you. They need to know that you support a budget that is honest and actually fixes these problems. And if you've got Republican legislators or Democratic legislators, they all need to hear from you. This has got to be a bipartisan solution because we have got divided government, and so every one of us has to be a part of giving them the support and encouragement they need to get it done. I'll just have a few numbers here that I want to give to you in terms of what my budget does for education, for this district specifically. So my budget, when we actually put all those school aid dollars back into our schools, represents $1.9 million improvement for West Bloomfield. Yeah. And I was talking with Dr. Hill. I said, what would you do with that? He said, we would hire more teachers. We would drop class size. We could do a lot with that. Now, if compared to the Senate budget that came out, it's $1.3 million more than the Senate put into their budget, and $1.4 million more than the House put into their budget. And that's why I'm asking that you right now get engaged and support this and let your legislators know that you do, because these decisions will have profound effects in the classroom and for anyone who cares about the public education in this state.
Thank you. So there are a lot of roads in Michigan, and what roads would be the priority roads to fix in this area?
Well, so here's the thing. We've got a formula that is known as PA 51. It is a public act from 1951 that determines how we prioritize roads in Michigan. You heard that right. We use a formula that is 68 years old to decide how to prioritize roads. And that's why when we raise the revenue this way and run it through the budget that I've introduced, we'll see us have the ability to prioritize the worst roads in the most economically important parts of our state. And Southeast Michigan dramatically is better off under the plan that I've introduced than that old public act. Now, I'm not going to take away everything that has been going through PA 51 because that would create a war in Lansing. But these additional revenues will get prioritized based on the worst roads with the most traveled and the greatest economic impact in our state, which means that Oakland County, Wayne County, and Macomb County, as well as Kent County, would see the greatest investment. So on the state website, you can click to see which roads in your area are first up on the priority list. And you can see what it's going to mean to your life. And everyone can also click to see what it means for school districts around your area for a per pupil increase. As I said, there's equity that's built into this budget too, and I'm really proud that it's based on, the research collaborative work, because it was so important that we actually raise up kids and give them the support they need to be successful. Paul, anything you want to add on that about which roads?
I think the governor said it well. We are going to be targeting the money towards the most heavily traveled roadways with economic impact. I-696 out here, it's really in bad shape. Grand River through, if you get past downtown Farmington, really in bad shape. I can go on and on the list. Those are the areas, the roadways we're going to target first.
Next question. So what happened to the money from the 2015 tax?
Yeah, so we saw a couple of slides that that pointed that out. Let's see, it was in Paul's, I don't know who's, maybe I'm still running this thing. Anyway, I know, that was the second grade photo. It's a little embarrassing. It always gets a laugh, though, and I've got to find my laughs where I can. We saw that here. So the blue line was where we were headed before that 2015 gas tax. When I talk about the worst vote that a legislator can take is one that increases revenue and doesn't fix the problem you told the public you were fixing. This is what I'm talking about. That green line is what that 2015 gas tax did. It just slowed our decline. It did not fix the problem. Most people in Lansing knew it wasn't going to come anywhere near to actually changing our trajectory. And yet, they let the public believe that. And so understandably, the public's irritated. I'm irritated. I wasn't in the legislature then. I'm irritated that we've now lost some credibility with the public, that people are frustrated, and I get that. I am too, and that's why I didn't want to do a half measure. They said we could change the trajectory, but let's just say we only need 80% of our roads in good or fair condition. That's the kind of phony information that loses trust in the public. And that's why I'm trying to make sure people understand what the real situation is. So that's what happened to the gas tax from 2015. It just slowed our decline. We would have dropped a lot faster, quicker, had we not done it. But now you can see the trajectory we're on.
This sounds like a review question, but what's your position on raising the sales tax to 7% for roads and other necessary funding?
Yeah, so people have asked, are there better, easier ways to do this? And I showed you the one chart with the matrix. The sales tax would require that we go to a vote of the general public and amend our Constitution, which is an incredibly difficult thing to do and would take a lot of time. So we would be falling between now and when we could even get it before the people. If it passed, another downside to a sales tax is that we would have to hope that a future legislature actually puts the money into roads and bridges. And that kind of contributes to that shell game that's been going on where we don't have confidence that the money's going where it's supposed to go. And that's the two kind of marks against a sales tax. If that's what the legislature wanted to push, if the legislature said we've got the votes for a sales tax to fix this, I would certainly work with them to try to make sure that it was adequate and that we protected it and that we made sure it went to roads. But I think that those are a couple of legitimate downsides to it.
Governor, you mentioned earlier that the budget will address the skills gap. How exactly does the budget address the skills gap in our state, and to what benefit and to whom?
Yeah, so right now 45% of our adults have a post-secondary certificate or degree. We need to get to 60%. Other states are barreling toward a 60% mark, and there are places where companies like Amazon don't say we're not coming there because we're worried about the talent pipeline. They know that they're on their way. And that's why setting the goal was job one, and I did that in the state of the state. Job two is actually implementing the tools to make sure that we can do that. So when these general fund dollars come out of potholes and go back into the general fund, we can use that to bring down the cost of a 4-year degree so that we're opening up paths. We can use that to ensure that adults have opportunities to upskill, whether their path is into the trades, where you can make a good living and there's ample opportunities right now, or it is a 2-year degree. There is a path for everyone in the state, but we've got to make them affordable. We did ourselves a massive disfavor by suggesting that the only way to prosperity is through a 4-year degree, because then they made it unaffordable. And so we've discounted other paths and had a complete barrier in terms of affordability. You can make a good living in this state, whether it's in the trades or with a 2-year certificate or stacking credentials or a 4-year degree. But we've got to make sure that they really are open for people and affordable. And that's what is built into this budget with the My Opportunity Initiative and the Michigan Reconnect for adults.
Now, this is an interesting question. It comes from two people. And when I ask the question, if your name is named and you're one of the two people, would you just stand, because I want the governor to get a flavor of who you are? Hello, my name is Avery Taylor. Avery, would you stand? And I am going into the 3rd grade. And hello, my name is Eleanor Heitch, and I'm going into the 4th grade. And our question for you is, what advice, let's give them a round of applause. So Governor, and actually Mr. Ajegba, what advice do you have for young girls who want to be leaders?
All right. Well, Avery and Eleanor, I have a feeling you're much further down the road than I was when I was your age. So I'm confident you're going to be successful. But I think you should know this, that you already possess inside of you all the skills you need to be successful. That you are smart, you're bold to ask a question and put your name on it, and you're thinking about the future. And those are incredibly important attributes. And I hope that no matter who it is that you run into in life, because you'll run into people that'll support you along the way, and you'll run into some people who might not support you, but that you remember it's all inside of you, and you're very fortunate to have parents who I know love you and support you too. But I think you've got all the raw materials you need right now. And I bet either one of you could go into the Michigan legislature right now and do a better job than some of those people that are there. And I see the legislators nodding and laughing, so yes.
Okay, so we're gonna end on that high note. I would like to thank the governor for her appearance, as well as our MDOT director. Let's give them a nice round of applause. And that concludes our town hall meeting. I think there were some photo ops that you know where to go if you've been told for photo ops on the way out. Governor, we thank you for coming to West Bloomfield. We appreciate it. Thank you.